So, hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of my Become Unstoppable series. And I'm really excited to introduce to you another amazing guest. And I'm sure you'll agree when you find out what this lady's been up to in her life. So, Jordanne, would you like to introduce yourself and let everybody know who you are and what it is you do?
Yeah, my name's Jordanne and I'm an ex-Paralympian. My title's quite long. So I always get like, whenever everyone says introduce yourself, I'm like, oh, how long do I go? But yeah, I'm an ex-Paralympian. I have 4 Paralympic medals and 13 Grand Slam titles and an MBE. And now I work in an MBE, and now I work in the mortgage industry. So a massive 180.
Very much so. And we'll find out a lot more about that in a little while. But how exciting! So those who don't know me, I'm Julie Fitzpatrick, and I'm a multi-award winning therapist and coach. And I really specialise in helping people suffering from stress, overwhelm, lack of confidence, to get them from stuck to unstoppable, really. But I use powerful subconscious tools and techniques alongside conscious coaching. So we get to the real root cause and we get to it fast, and it's really permanent as well. So if anyone's interested in working with either of us, then we'll give you the details later. So before I forget, because sometimes I do, I want to ask you my very famous question. So what does being unstoppable mean to you, my love?
To me, it's just overcoming adversity, I think, because life is not all unicorns and rainbows, and it's not a straight uphill line. And I think there's going to be a lot of crap that comes your way, and it's about how you break through those barriers and just keep striving for more, keep sticking to your goals. And so your kind of journey looks like this, but it's still going up.
Still going up,
That's
yeah.
what it kind of means to me. Yeah.
I love that. And we'll share some of your ups and downs in a minute, because you've had a fair few in your time, haven't you? Yeah, and I love that, because it is so true. And I think if we don't have ups and downs in life, to a point, that's great, but it also means that we're probably not really pushing ourselves, and because sometimes when things happen, that's when we dig deep, isn't it? And that's when we find out who we really are and how resilient we are. And actually we can make good things come out of bad things. Like, for example, I got made redundant in 2020 in the middle of the pandemic, which at the time didn't feel ideal, but actually it was the best thing that ever happened, because I started my unstoppable journey, right? So I might have a fair share of things too, but it's about trying to find the good stuff when the bad stuff happens, isn't it? And becoming unstoppable because of that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you.
So tell us a little bit about your story then. So now, as you said, you're running mortgages and all that kind of stuff, which you can talk about in a moment. But give us a bit of your background then. You know, you've mentioned about the accolades that you've got, but take us back. Take us to, how you ended up doing that, why you were there, what things have gone on for you, my darling.
Yeah, so I was born with a bone condition. It was a hereditary, so my dad has it and I inherited it. So it just meant that I couldn't, well, when I was a child, like below the age of 12, I couldn't really walk that well. I was in and out of hospital constantly. Couldn't really do a lot of things that the other kids were doing. So my dad got me into sport to try and help me get stronger and just sort of put me in a mix of people who had other conditions or other disabilities. So I started playing wheelchair tennis when I was about 3 years old, and that was the best thing he could have done for me, because growing up in the 90s, well, disability wasn't really a thing then. No one really knew anything about it, and if you had any sort of disability, no matter how, even if you wore braces in the 90s, you were weird. So if you were in a wheelchair, it was like extra weird. So yeah, I was very different to all the other kids, and I couldn't do a lot of things that the other kids could do, but the one thing I could do was sport, and I was surrounded by people who were more like me. So I progressed with that, and I got talent spotted when I was about 12. And my career just sort of progressed through the juniors and then through the seniors. And I ended up having about a 16-year professional career in wheelchair tennis. And yeah, I did 4 Paralympic games. I medaled at 3 of them. And between 2014 and 2021, when I retired, that's when I won 13 Grand Slams as well. So Wimbledon, US Open, Aussie Open, Roland Garros. So it was a very, very successful career. But that's the success part of it. So like there was a lot of rubbish stuff in that, you know, going through school and being different and being bullied and coming out of it and trying to qualify for my first Paralympic Games, where I was doing my GCSEs in the same year. It was not easy, let me tell you that.
Well, I mean, most kids struggle just to do their GCSEs, don't they? Let's be honest. But
Yeah.
to be training and being competitive and actually winning things as well, I mean, straight away to me, that really makes you so unstoppable. It's untrue, isn't it? And I just want to say, right, we met a couple of months ago at a branding retreat, and we had to just go around the room introducing ourselves, and it was a test really, because it was about finding out how good we were about selling ourselves, right? And I'd done a little bit of this before, so I'm not saying I was brilliant, but I was okay. I was like, I'm an award winning, and some people in the room, this young lady included, were very withheld, shall we say. And it was only as we was there for 3 days, and by the end of it, we was all going, "What? You did what?" Because you was like, so you just didn't want to talk about it, did you? Or didn't think it was relevant or whatever. But it was like, as stuff came out through those 3 days, we was all like, and there was a few like that as well, wasn't there? You weren't the only one.
Yeah, you're not the first person to say that to me.
So why do you think you kind of like that then? Why do you think you do you feel like that's the past, so you don't need to talk about it, or are you not proud of what you've done, or what stops you from bringing it up?
No, I am proud of it. I think, yeah, part of me is like, that was a past life. But at the same time, I know that it is a part of me, and it is a part of me that, especially in business, is very relevant because it gives me credibility. You know, that, you know, I'm not just a mortgage advisor. I'm also someone who has competed at the Paralympics. I've played for my country. I've been under the most amount of pressure one can be under, playing for a podium place, a Paralympic medal in front of 17,000 people. I mean, that's pressurizing. So like so if I'm telling people like, I really, you know, come and work with me, because I know how to, you know, if getting a mortgage application in a deadline is okay, because I've played under pressure. I thrive under pressure. Yeah, but I also know what it takes to be elite. Like, I know what it takes to win. I have the determination, the ambition, the drive, all of that. So I understand that my story is important for people to know, so that they understand who they're working with. But I don't know, I've always been like that. I don't know if it's like my parents have always said to me, like, don't brag. No one likes a bragger. And it's kind of just stuck with me, and I'm just, tend to keep it humble.
I think probably as parents, they've tried to keep you grounded, haven't they?
Definitely, yeah.
Which is a really good thing. However, it does have that kind of knock-on effect. And I can kind of resonate in the sense that I was similar, not in what I've done or anything like that, but since in the last few years where I've been working, digging deep, having done on me basically what I do to my clients now, I uncovered my limiting beliefs. Like, I believe that I should just be average, because if I put myself above the pedestal, I'd get noticed, and then people would push me off for the fake that I am, right? so that stopped me. I don't get me wrong. I had a quite successful career, but I could have done so much more. And I think this holds a lot of people back because it's a belief that we have within us, right? Which is not our fault, because that's just the way, between 0 and 7, that's where we create the most of ours. And you would have created all sorts of limiting beliefs at the time, because that's just how it works, especially being different, because you weren't like the other kids, right? So you had that pressure. And then you would have felt even different again when you started having this successful career, because pretty much everything you've done in your life at that point is different, right? So you've probably got something still trapped within you that holds you back. Having said that, you've obviously got other fantastic beliefs in you. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been successful in what you've done and the success that you continue to have. But there's always different. You talked about parts of us just now, actually. Like everything's a part of us, and there will be parts of you that are superhuman, super determined to have given you that drive. But there'll also be parts of you that will be holding you back.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, I think especially in sport, I've seen it when someone excels, because I mean, it's not a secret. Like, I was very talented. I was very, very naturally talented. And I've seen it in others where they've got really big headed and, they've got to world number one and they think they're better than everyone else. And then it actually becomes to their detriment, because they've got this, okay, you need to believe in yourself and you need to big yourself up, but you also need to be respectful of others. And I didn't want to end up like that. I didn't want to be thinking that I was better than anyone else, because even though I was world number one at one point, I never had the belief that I was unbeatable, like no one could touch me. I respected my opponents enough to know that if I was off my game, or if they changed something, or if they, were having a purple badge and having a great day, then they could beat me, and I needed to be on my game. So I think it was it's a balance of having that belief in yourself and kind of bragging and saying, I am good, because you need that in your life, but you also need to have the grounded side of you to say, but I need to respect my opponents. And it works in business as well. Like, you need to respect others, because there's space for everyone. And I think that's more so in business, because in sport it is literally like you need to win, need to win, need to win. But in business it's a little bit different, where it's like, there's space for other mortgage advisors within the industry, and we should all be helping each other. And I think it was just finding that balance. And and now, I mean, when I went to my son's school, so when he started school a couple of years ago, I don't think anyone knew that I was like an ex-Paralympian until like a year later. And because they were like, oh, what do you do? I was like, oh, I'm a mortgage advisor. And it was only until then it was only until one person found out, and then like it spread and spread, and I was like, why didn't you tell me you were like famous? I'm like, I'm not famous.
Well, you are in comparison to most of us.
It's
when you Google your name, you get quite a lot of stuff comes up, doesn't it? Like a famous person. Yeah, so you are, but I know what you mean. You're not going to go down the street and be recognised unless someone's really into sport, I suppose, isn't they?
Yeah,
but
exactly.
And I get what you're saying there, because if you just rocked up at school and went, oh hi, I'm Jordanne MBE. Mind you should have MBE. I'm going to change this while we're speaking, because you should have this on there, shouldn't you?
I know. Technically, it's part of my legal name, and I should use it everywhere, but I always forget to put it on.
There you go.
I just proves my point.
I already changed her name before we started to award-winning, because I know she's award-winning in her new career as a mortgage advisor as well. So I knew she wasn't going to mention that. But then I realised I didn't have it on mine either, so that was quite funny.
It was better than each other.
But yeah, I mean, something like an MBE. I mean, wow, that's amazing. Tell us about that. What was that like when you found out, and how did you get it? And what was that like?
Yeah, it was in 2015. So in 2014, I won the Calendar Grand Slam, which is all 4 Grand Slams in 1 year, which was I'd made history, because no other British tennis player had ever done that. And so in the following year, I was nominated for an MBE, which I didn't know about at the time, because you're not actually allowed to tell any, like, if you have to be nominated by, I think it's 2 other MBEs or OBEs or anyone who's got an honour. And then it came through the post, and I was like, oh my God, like, it was so unexpected. That wasn't even on my radar of things. And yeah, I went to get it in October 2015, and it was Princess Anne who gave it to me.
So where did you go for it?
Buckingham Palace.
Buckingham Palace.
Yeah, I went with my parents, and yeah, it was a really cool day actually, and yeah, it was really nice that I could take my parents along with me, and we got like really nice photos from the day, and yeah, it's something I'm really proud of, because it's something was never on my radar. I never woke up one morning and was like, I need to be an MBE. It just kind of happened, and now it's great. I love it.
Yeah, so you should share that. If that is part of your legal name, you should have that everywhere, because that will get you into conversations, wouldn't it? That I wouldn't get into.
Yeah, it's on my email signature for work, and so many
Good.
clients are like, oh, why do you have an MBE for mortgages? I'm like, it's not for mortgages. So they just think I'm like this exceptional broker because I've got an MBE in the mortgage industry, but then I'm like, no, it's from a past life.
Mind you, it's all in the messaging though, isn't it? So you've got an MBE? Yes, I have. So would you like to work with me on, you don't have to lie that it's not linked to the mortgage, do you?
Yeah.
It's just like, I mean, obviously if someone asks you direct, but it's, yeah, I think you should. Do you know what I've realised recently-ish as well? There's a difference between being confident or feeling confident as opposed to feeling not worthy of ourselves. So I think I always came across if people met me, they would go, oh yeah, you come across really confident, but I still had that deep thing within me that I didn't feel worthy. And I'm wondering if that's kind of a little bit of what's going on for you as well, because you know that you had to work hard to get where you were, and you would have tapped into your resources more times than you can care to even mention. And I totally get the grounding and being nice and all that, and I think you're absolutely right, that's super important. But I wonder if there was an element of you that didn't feel worthy of winning this stuff.
I think some of it, yes, because I always felt like I could have done more. So
Really?
it's hard to explain, because obviously when you see it on paper and it's like 13 slams, like most, because I am officially the most successful female British tennis player of all time.
Wow,
which is obviously incredible. Yeah, so that's able-bodied and wheelchair, like as in the
really?
sport. Yeah. So when I tell people that, they're like, how can you like get better than that? But look, when you've been on a journey for like so many years in elite sport, like it's really difficult to explain, but I feel like I could have done more. I could have won more. I could have been better than I was. I was just lazy. And
Really? You feel that you were lazy?
yeah, I was lazy because I was talented. So although it was a blessing that I was born with a talent, it made me lazy because I didn't have to work as hard as the other girls to be good. And if I'd kept the talent but worked just as hard, I probably would have been unbeatable. Like I would have been next level. I don't think anyone would have been able to touch me. But because I didn't train as hard as the other girls, because I didn't need to, I sort of stayed on their level. And it was all very much like this the whole way through my career. And that's the only thing that I regret from my time as an athlete.
I mean, a few things I'd say about that. I mean, sometimes, you're the only one that set that bar about it wasn't enough, right? So what if you could actually change the way you thought about that and went, you know what? I'm bloody amazing. Nearly swore really badly then. And you changed the way the way you speak to yourself about that, because actually our mind only listens to what we tell us, right? So that's kind of like the story you're telling yourself at the moment, that you didn't work hard enough, you could have been more successful, you could have done more. Maybe you could, maybe you couldn't, right? But if you changed and reframed that and said, do you know what? When I read all this stuff, I'm so proud of myself. MBE, you know, all these, you know, accolades that you've got behind you. And I'm wondering whether you would actually sit with that a little bit better if you could just come to terms with that and be really proud of yourself and take that acknowledgement as it is. How do you feel about that?
I think it's not that I'm not proud of myself. I think it's just hard sometimes, isn't it? When everything's so fast paced, and it can be in any walk of life really. When you're striving for something and you're on a journey, and you have successes and you have losses and you have downs and you have ups, and you always. I set a goal and then I hit it, and then I've set another goal and then I've hit it, and then I've set another goal, and everything's so fast paced that you don't actually look back and reflect of what I've actually done. And I think that's what happened is I did my career and then I retired. And then it was only then when I looked back on my career and was like, wow, I did a lot. I won a lot. Like I was really good. And I didn't realize that when I was actually playing.
That's a really good point, actually. And you need to remember this in your business career now as well, right? Now, for me, I spent 35 years in the corporate world, did okay, didn't really enjoy most of it, blah, 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 blah. Bored, talk about it now. Blah. However, starting my business and I got so caught up in it, like retraining, because I was retraining like personally, you know, 35 years in one career, same exactly as what you're doing actually. That was your past life, that was my past life. You've still got all the skills that we learned from it and the experiences, but we're going into something completely new, right? Now, I had trained as a counsellor back in the day, but so I did have a bit of background in it, but didn't do it as a job. So I've really completely retrained myself. Then I knew absolutely zilch, zero donut on building a business, and that's when I started my business training. But also on top of that, I'm still doing work on myself, right? So I've gone from living in my head to coming out with a spiritual journey, right? So 3 huge things there. Now, I've got so caught up in all of that and got cross with myself. Why am I not more successful then? Why am I not more financially abundant right now? And it's, well, I've had to really give myself a good talking to and go, cut yourself some slack, love.
Sorry.
So you've got the cough. When we both started this conversation, neither of us had a cough. I started coughing.
No.
Transferred it over to you.
Sorry.
And it's like, we're really serious now. Do you mind? But it's I had the point being, I had to really go back and look at what I've done, because it was like 2020 when I started, but I went back to work. So I was working for 2 years still while I was retraining, whilst I was trying to learn how to build a business. You know, I've got my podcast now. I've got all social medias. I didn't even have social media really. LinkedIn for a job and Facebook for holiday snaps, and that's about it. But when I look back at what I've achieved to this point now, do you know what? I've done pretty good.
Yeah. And I think, like, for me, I liked things being within my control. And I think that's why I chose an individual sport like tennis, because I wasn't reliant on it. I'm not good at team things. I'll openly admit that. I don't like working in a team because I don't like to be reliant on someone else. And I don't like to feel like I'm letting the team down. So if it was an individual sport like tennis, if I won, it was me. If I lost, it was me. I can blame anyone else. And I think there are so many times in my career where I got injured, or something happened out of my control, like COVID, and it pushed the Paralympics back for a year. And I found that really difficult to just deal with. And I think especially in Rio 2016, I was the favourite for gold. And I was ranked number 3 in the world at the time, but I'd beaten number 1 and 2 on a regular basis. So I was definitely the favourite. And in my heart, I knew I was the favourite. So I was going to Rio to win gold. And in the quarterfinals, I broke my wrist.
Oh
and it
no.
was it was a stress fracture from overtraining, and it was just one of the worst moments of my life because I'd worked hard for 4 years. I was finally the favourite for gold, and gold was always since I was a little girl. It was always,
Mm.
I wanted to be a gold medalist. Finally, I was like, this is my chance. And I broke my wrist, and I went out in the quarterfinals. I did come home with a bronze medal in the doubles. Don't ask me how, but
Did you
I
play with a
did.
broken wrist?
I did, yeah. I played the bronze medal match with a broken wrist because I refused to let my doubles partner down, and I knew that I wasn't going to come home with a medal if I didn't play.
Wow.
So I did get a bronze, but I reckon it took me a good 2 years to recover from that. Afterwards, like, I wanted to quit the sport. I wanted to leave. I wanted to just get away from tennis. Because it wasn't like I came home and was like, oh, I lost that was my fault. It wasn't. My wrist broke, like there was nothing I could have done, and that's what was like eating me inside
Mm.
so much. It was like I had
'Cause it was
no
out of your
control
control,
over
wasn't
it.
it? Yeah.
Yeah, and so like for a long time, my bronze medal in Rio, I didn't display it. Like, I hated it. I was like, this means nothing to me because I went there to get gold, and I'd
Right.
already won a bronze in London for the doubles, so I didn't feel like I'd progressed.
Mm.
Whereas now I look back and I actually think it's one of my most proudest moments
Mm.
because, I mean, I broke my wrist
Yeah.
in a Paralympic Games, and I still chose to play, and I still won a medal.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like the biggest resilience for me, and
That
it's
is
something I'm actually
amazing.
quite proud of. Yeah, when
Yeah.
I look back now, I've reflected. I've had a couple of
Yeah,
years.
yeah,
I've
yeah.
reflected. I'm
You have
over
to
it,
reflect. Yeah.
but my mindset has changed so much just from that one time.
I can see why it's difficult for you to not go back in your head and go, "Oh, if only I hadn't have done whatever it was that did the, whatever, and maybe if I hadn't have trained so hard, but there you go. Actually, you said there that you trained really hard, and that's why that was detriment to your wrist. So you couldn't have been that lazy then, could you? Let me put
Just
that to you.
one period of time, literally, the one period of time where I wasn't lazy and then the wrist
And
broke.
look what happened.
Exactly. So then I just remained lazy after that.
Oh, brilliant. And this is what I love about you, because like the more we could sit here for hours and you'll just drop in something else, won't you? Oh, did I not mention? No, you didn't mention that. But this is the whole thing, isn't it? About being you, but also being a sports personality, right? Because you've got to have that drive and determination. So when you're in like you mentioned earlier about wanting to have a gold medal. So did you visualize yourself winning a gold medal? And
Yeah,
so
well, absolutely. Like, it was my ultimate goal. Win Wimbledon, win a gold. I won Wimbledon 5 times. But I never got a gold. I got a silver. So I got 3 bronzes and a silver in Tokyo. But I never got gold, and it's haunted me for a while that I never got gold. But at the same time, yeah, even though my whole career was based around gold, and I visualized gold, it was always about gold. When I look back, my really, if I'm honest with myself, my opportunity was Rio to win gold,
mm,
and that was out of my control. And then obviously, COVID happened, but also in that time, I had a baby. So I had my son, and then I wasn't sure if I was going to come back. I had 18 months out, and then I came back to compete in Tokyo.
wow.
And honestly, it was going to be a tough ask for me to win gold after everyone was competing at the highest level. They were in shape, whilst I was having like 2 years out to have a baby. So to come back with such a relatively short period of time, yeah, the year that it got delayed helped me because I had an extra year. But it was a tough ask, to win bronze and silver was incredible, and it's something I'm very, very proud of. But my opportunity was Rio. That was the peak of my career, and I didn't do it, but it was out of my control. So in
Mm,
some ways, now it's easier because I'm like, well, it wasn't my fault. it wasn't like I bottled it or I didn't play
Yeah,
very
and
well. Or
you was, you know, is it that shot of the match and you
missed it. Yeah. Yeah,
choked.
exactly.
That's the
So
word, yeah, yeah.
yeah, so I'm okay with it now. You know, my sort of sense of self isn't based around the fact that I didn't win gold.
Mm.
So I'm okay.
And I think the fact that you kind of went in there wanting gold, that also allowed you to get the bronze and silvers, wouldn't it? Because if you'd gone in that attitude of, well, it'd be nice if I get a medal,
Yeah.
you wouldn't have got any.
Well, it's like that saying, right? It's like shoot for the stars, and if you miss, you hit the moon.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
exactly.
was exactly like that. Yeah,
Mm,
and you know, to win bronze in singles after everything, COVID, coming back from having a baby, coming back from several injuries, to actually be on the podium in singles was
mm,
incredible. And then to improve on the two bronze medals that I'd won previously in doubles to get a silver. I just
mm.
think I'm really proud of that. Really
Yeah.
proud. And throughout that whole time, you know, I was going through a lot of personal things as well. I had a breakup with my fiance, with my son's dad, all through Tokyo. There was a lot of stuff going on back at home.
Mm,
And yeah, to come through that and knowing it was my last Paralympic Games as well. I was like, this is the last match I'm ever going to play. This is my last opportunity to get silver, to get gold, to get bronze, whatever it is, to be on the podium. There was a lot of pressure. There was a lot going on. So I am proud of myself for what I've done. And now just to come into a completely different career of like, okay, that's gone.
mm.
And now I'm going to start a completely different career from scratch. And, you know, in 4 years, I've gone from intern to manager, head broker, and award winning.
Exactly. So that is a phenomenal achievement in itself, isn't it, in 4 years? Because, like you said, you've had to, like with any sports person, there's going to be a time when you have to stop, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's just the way it goes, isn't it? And you always have to have a game plan, I suppose. So how did you deal with that when you knew that your career was coming to an end and you had to do something different? How did you end up deciding it was around mortgages and that type of thing?
I kind of had like a mini life crisis because I realized I only had GCSEs, didn't do my A levels, didn't go to uni. I was a mum. I was 27, 28. So I was like, how can I be retired at 27? I can't go back to uni. So I need to do something that is quick to get a degree in, or, you know, do qualifications long distance or something. Um, and then I was like, well, what am I good at? I was like, nothing apart from tennis, because I've only ever needed to be good at
That's
tennis.
all you've ever known, though, isn't it, in your
It's all
defence?
I've ever known. I didn't have to choose my A levels. I didn't have to choose my uni degree. I didn't have to do anything else in
I
life.
didn't do any of them either, love, but I wasn't a professional sports person either. But
Yeah, and and it wasn't until my friend was like, "You're actually really good with your finances," and I'd already bought a property, so I was already interested in property. So she was just googling like, "What can you do in property?" And it just came up as the mortgage advisor
mm,
qualification, which was going to take me a year to do. I could do it distance learning, and I was like, "Yeah, I think I could do that." So I just did it off my own back whilst I was competing. And then COVID hit, and then no one would hire me. I was like, I don't want to be paid. I was like, I just want to do like work experience internships, like no payment, it's fine. No one would take me on until I met the owner of Hearthstone, and I explained to him what I wanted. And he said, I've watched you win Wimbledon in 2014 and
you knew who you
2015.
were.
Yeah, so he was automatically like, I know who you are. Like, he was like, absolutely, I want an ex-sports person part of my company because I know you're going to get it done. And yeah, that was it. That was kind of like how it started. And I started as an intern. 3 months later, he offered me a full-time job, and I just kind of worked my way up the company. And now I'm like second in command, and I love it.
Amazing. And I've got no doubt that you will be super, 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 super successful because it's in your genes, isn't it?
Well, that's the yeah. Is that's kind of what I like to think is, you know, whether it's sport or business, it's kind of the same. It's the same mindset. Like you
Yeah.
have to build your business. You have to do that yourself. Like, it's on me if I'm successful or not. It's the same in tennis. So I'm just transferring those skills over to business.
Exactly right. And exactly what I've done as well, right? I struggle with certain aspects of business, but that other people don't. But I excel at other parts of it. So when I'm in my group of people that are, therapists and that, they don't understand some of the tech stuff. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not super techie, but I know the concepts. And if someone says, "Oh, you need to do that," I'll go, "Well, hang on, no, but how's that going to get from there to there?" Because that's what I would have done in my job. So you do bring. It's not a waste, is it? It's bringing all that skills in, and then your resilience is going to come into play as well, and the pressures. You know how to deal with pressure. And in all honesty, you're probably never going to have the pressures in this role that you've dealt with in your past. I wouldn't have thought, right? So everything's going to be a doddle in that sense, isn't it?
But I'm very calm. I'm very efficient. I know how to get stuff done, and if something goes wrong, I know how to put out fires because I'm always going to think about solutions. It's the same in sport, right? If something's going wrong in my tennis match, I need to think of a solution. How am I going to win? How am I going to get through it? It's the same in mortgages. If they've got a complex case, or I've got declines or whatever it might be, it's like, okay, well, where's the solution? It's never like, sorry, I can't help you. It's like, how do I find a solution for this person? How do I help this person? It's exactly the same.
Yeah. And then you're tapping into your inner self then and thinking, okay, how am I going to do that? That's a question for you, right? Everything I do with my clients and that is all around, everything goes back to us, right? Self-care, looking after themselves. How do you do that for you? How do you tap into your higher self, if you like, if you really need to work out something? Like, how did you do that in your sporting career?
I found it quite hard when I was competing, to be honest, and I didn't really take that much time for myself. The only thing I really did was I was so set on just learning. Like, I wanted to learn about loads of different things outside of sport. So I was like the only one on tour that was always doing some like random qualification. So I remember doing like a diploma in canine studies. Like, it was so random. It was the most random thing in the planet. But when I was on tour, got all this downtime, and it's like one thing that I could do. I love dogs. Like, who doesn't love a dog? I love dogs. So I was like, let me just learn about them. And then I would do, that would be like my time. And then I would get like a little certificate and it'd be like, yay, I've got something. It means nothing, but like, it was just a way of me, like, can I learn something? Can I have more knowledge? But also just not have my mind on sport at all. And it was the only thing that sort of got me through it.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I think that's a very good point, isn't it? And when you're kind of doing a job that you love, even your sporting career, it can be difficult to switch off, can't it? Because you always be thinking about the next match, especially if you was at a competition like Wimbledon or even the Olympics, isn't it? Like, it's not just a one match and that's it, is it? Unless you lose, obviously. But you'll always be looking to get to the next phase. So you win a match, then you're thinking about the opponent on the next one, aren't you? So it must be on your mind all the time. So to actually take time and divert your attention to something else is a good thing, because otherwise you just get consumed by it. And that's the same for anyone, isn't it? In any walk of life. If you're consumed in everything all of the time and your mind is constantly twirling about it, then you will drive yourself nuts.
It's only recently that I've got better at that, to be honest. I was really bad with it when I was playing. Like, I was consumed by sport, and like mentally it really messed me up, especially after Rio with everything that happened there. It's only literally been in the last, I'd say 6-7 months that I've really tuned into that and like just kind of come back to me a bit. Because I felt like I lost myself quite a lot when I was playing, and then did the transition, and then I broke up with my ex. I moved cities. I moved, being a single mum, running a business, and financially dependent on myself, all of this. And then I realized at the beginning of this year that I was like, who even am I? Like, I've just completely lost myself. And it was like a journey of then coming back to myself, which I'm on at the moment. And it's just been really enlightening. And I just feel so much more settled and happier.
I love that. And I can totally resonate with that as well, because I got caught up in that, not all of the 35 years, I suppose, but I was always the breadwinner. So it wasn't an option for me to quit and do something I wanted. I didn't even know what I wanted, if I'm honest. But even when I trained as a counsellor, it was like, well, I'm not going to make a living from that. And that's the problem. When you're at a certain financial level, to not be at that level anymore is really, really hard. And when I took that decision to quit completely 2 years ago, or 18 months ago, it's one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make, because mentally I couldn't do both anymore, because I felt like I was doing a crap job at both of them, and I couldn't focus on my business enough. But to cut that cord was really, really hard. And and like you said, it's not all rainbows and unicorns, is it? I'm loving my journey, but some days it's like, really? Seriously, cut me some slack.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
I'm doing everything right. I'm looking after myself and everything else. And it's like, come on. But it's about trusting the process, trusting the journey, trusting that we're exactly where we need to be right now. And you can only say that and be confident about saying that if you are on a journey. If you're sitting at home watching this and you're doing nothing with your life, and maybe you just telling yourself a story of, oh, it's all right for you, but I can't do that because, and all that, that's just a story you're telling yourself, right? We've all got it within us. Some of us have got harder, mountain to climb than other people have got. But if we don't want to do it ourselves, no one else is going to do it for us. So you have to dig deep, don't you, and find it from within to actually get yourself out of that hole. And if you can't get yourself out of it, find someone who can help you get out of it. But get yourself out of it, because we only get one crack at this life, don't we?
Exactly. You get one life and you're never going to grow inside of your comfort zone. So if everything feels really cushy, you're probably not on the right path. Because I always say, like, if it scares me and it looks difficult, I know that's the right path for me, because that's where I'm going to grow. And if I'm scared of it, it means I care. So it means I'm on the right path.
Yeah. But it's about really digging deep and finding out what it is you really want as well, isn't it? And we can't do that very easily if we're caught up in our head. And I'm talking from experience here, like living my life in my head. I didn't know back then that your mind and body is completely connected, and you can't always think your way. I'll say this saying all the time now. You can't always think yourself out of a situation. Sometimes you have to feel your way out of it. And to do that, you have to stop, and you have to be present for a while and tap into yourself and acknowledge these feelings and stop suppressing them and stop ignoring them. Because if you do, it's going to end up manifesting in psychological or physical conditions anyway. And this is why so many of us start to get sick, and we get pains and autoimmune diseases, skin conditions, headaches, migraines, and all of that, pretty much anything really, because it's probably caused by not looking after yourself. And by looking after ourselves, I suppose I do mean, because it's everything, isn't it? It's about what you eat. It's about whether you're exercising, whether you're taking time out meditating, looking after yourself. If you don't do any of that, and you're suppressing everything and numbing everything through bad addictions, whether it's smoking, drinking, drugs, or just ignoring, it's all an addiction. You're just going to just make yourself worse. And it just...
And it's about being around the right people, because you kind of become the people that you surround yourself with. And since I've been surrounding myself with people who are like-minded, I've seen so much more growth in myself personally and in my business.
Absolutely, that is so true. You only want to be around people that bring you up, not bring you down. And sometimes the people that bring us down are the people closest to us, which is really, really difficult. But we have to create this protective bubble. This, I always imagine when I need it, that I put this big bubble around me and anything just penetrates off it, because this is all part of doing the work on ourselves as well. Because once we've done the work on us and we do truly love who we are, then we don't suck in all this stuff so much. Yes, you can take on people's energies, and it's about protecting yourself from negative energy, but the reason we take in a lot of people's comments and get upset about it is because we don't truly love who we are. And until we fix ourselves and uncover all our limiting beliefs and, you know, and love ourselves, who we really, really are, then we can be going on our unstoppable journey, right? Because we don't really care, for want of a better phrase, what other people think of us.
Exactly
right?
that.
You know, but do you know what? I'm looking at the time, I am going to get in trouble again, aren't I? But do you see what I mean about how quick the time goes, right?
It does go quickly, yeah.
I could literally talk to you for ages, and maybe we can do this another time as well. Thank you so much for being an amazing guest, and it's been great getting to know you a little bit more as well. But before we go, do you want to just do a shout out for your business then, how people can contact you and what you can do for them?
Yeah, so I literally do all types of property lending, whether that be mortgages, commercial, bridging, you name it, I can do it. And the best place to get me on is probably on Instagram, actually. So just go to Jordanne Whiley. I also have a Broker Diaries Instagram where I do all things lending, do little tips, educational videos. So either one of those, just drop me a DM, and yeah, I'm sure I can help you.
Amazing. So my Instagram is Julie Millieside, but most of everything else is Millieside Therapy and Coaching. And I have a YouTube channel too. So this interview will go up on there as well. So get yourself over there, watch some of the previous interviews, but also I've got client videos and client testimonial interviews on there as well. So if you want to speak to any of us, you can even comment on the socials, whatever you need to do to get hold of us. But we really would love to meet you and to help you. So thank you so much again for coming on, darling. And we hope that you've enjoyed this interview and found it inspiring. And if you're watching this on YouTube, if you can like and subscribe, that would be amazing. Thanks so much. And I look forward to seeing you with my next guest on my Unstoppable series. See you later, everyone. Bye-bye.